How's it going, everybody? Welcome to another video, but this one is extremely special and really exciting for me. This is going to be the full review of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Card Game Artworks book released by V-Jump Books for Konami and the Yu-Gi-Oh! Card Game. This is a book that has a ton of concept arts, illustrations, and some of the process that goes into creating the beautiful artwork that we all love from the Yu-Gi-Oh! Card Game. I'll put a link in the description for where you can find this as well. This also came with a very unique promo card that you can see on the screen right now of the Reinforcement of the Army card with an alternate art featuring Ray and Rose from the Sky Striker lore. It is in beautiful quarter-century secret rare, and this is a really nice addition to the book that I hope we get at some point in the TCG in English as well. But for now, let's dive into the book. And before we look at the artworks in the pages, just as a reminder, we're going to be zooming in on some beautiful art as well throughout this video. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this full review of this book. So I'm going to be talking over this and sharing a little bit of my thoughts about this product in general as you see the artwork for yourself as I flip through the entire book. This is a real pleasure to have a glimpse into the process and the amazing art that usually doesn't really go noticed in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Card Game. In other games, you will also have sometimes on the card a credit for the illustrator, which we don't have in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Card Game. Instead, we have credit and copyright of the studio that makes these artworks. It is, of course, done by various artists in a lot of different styles, mostly closer to the anime, but sometimes a little bit more illustrative, as you can see on the screen right now. And there's also a ton of detail throughout the book of the story of the cards themselves. This is, of course, in Japanese, which I cannot read, unfortunately, but if you do read Japanese, or if there will ever be a translated version of this book, it's going to be really, really cool because the illustrator comments and some of the notes drawn on the illustrations themselves tell a beautiful story of the process that goes into making each and every one of these characters come to life. And eventually, out of this big character sheets, it is all shrunk down into, the Yu-Gi-Oh! Cardboard art size. But of course, there's a ton of process that goes behind the scenes of designing the characters, designing the story behind how they look, and sometimes it even ties to the effect of the card. Besides the Yu-Gi-Oh! Card Game, there's also a lot of Rush Duel art here. And even though I don't play the Rush Duel card game, this is really, really interesting and cool to see because maybe at some point we'll get some of these cards imported into the card game that we all know as the OCG and the TCG. Now, you can already see on the screen right now a lot of really familiar characters that you're used to seeing on cards, like for example Divine Arsenal, Sky Thunder, Double A Zeus, which we all really love and appreciate. And it is such a pleasure, in my opinion, to have this sort of glimpse into the stories of the characters, a little bit about what the illustrators themselves develop and, expand on the universe that we also just know from the cards themselves. I think this is a very special opportunity, and as a person who you might know really loves and appreciates the art of the cards and of course the stories behind them, this tells us a lot about the characters that we already know and love so much, and it's just a wonderful bonus in my opinion. I think this is really a showing of Konami and the company behind making these illustrations, how much they actually care about this game. This is not a product that is extremely common in other games, but here there's so much story and character development that goes into creating the cards that we love that besides the game designers designing the cards, the effects, and how they actually work and interact as a card game, there's also so much that goes behind the scenes into creating and connecting the characters into a story. And of course, you can see here on the screen right now the Abyss lore, or the Fallen of Albaz story, which I made a really big cinematic movie about on my channel. So if you haven't checked it out, please make sure you do, if you like those kind of things, of course. But I personally am excited as hell watching these. This, of course, some of these artworks have been revealed online by Konami, sometimes over on Twitter, sometimes you can find them on YG Organization, but definitely not in such high quality. And I would say I've only seen personally about 25% of these online. So it means that there's so much more that we don't know. So going back to the Abyss lore and the Albaz story, all of these are fairly new to me. I haven't seen most of these. For example, Lubellion in his fusion form, but also in his main deck form, standing on two legs. This is something that wasn't really available to see before that. And the story itself of Fallen of Albaz is so rich and unique that it probably holds about 25% of the book all on its own, just for that story, because the lore itself has so much character development on the artwork themselves that it's pretty interesting to see how much work and thought the illustrators and artists put into each and every one of these characters just to make it make sense. This work, this character development work, will never be seen by most players. The players who play the card game don't really get to see all of these reasonings and backstories about the characters, but the fact that it just exists behind the scenes, first of all, definitely warrants this beautiful artwork just to share this with people, but also is really exciting to see because it means that the game and the game designers, the artists, they put so much love and effort into telling stories that most people will never even have a chance to see. And if it wasn't for this book, a lot of these things would go unnoticed, but I think the artists could be really, really proud. So I think this is a great step out of Konami. I've really enjoyed going through this book, and I'll probably have another go or two of this book as well, because it's just not enough to flip through it once. You, of course, can just pause at any time, and since this video is in 4K, you can probably appreciate the art so much more. These Exosister drawings really caught me by surprise. I never thought that Exosister had such a rich story behind it. I've been working on a video explaining some card effects and how they connect to the lore of the cards. But you can also see here that besides the wonderful characters, they also even drew the demons that exist within the Exosister world. They don't even have any representation in cards besides Returnia, I believe, but they still took really intense care and effort into fleshing them out as full-blown characters to make the story make sense. Of course, everybody loves the Labyrinth artwork, and the Labyrinth story is relatively rich, even though it is not told a lot, but you can see here that everything makes sense and works within the universe. And this is how artwork and concept art bring characters and games to life. This is what drives the game designers probably to build some effects around even. The story of the character can inform the card and the effect. And this is exactly what I'm working on right now for a new series on my channel. So, of course, like, subscribe, turn on the bell to get notified of when these videos actually go live eventually. We're coming into the end of the book, and I've really enjoyed my time going over these, explaining these to you, and I would actually really want to translate every single page just to know what the artist was thinking about, because I think, as you can see, there's so much more detail and backstory to every character that you see here that it sometimes enriches the experience of getting to know the character and learning about the story even more. So even though this is in Japanese, I will definitely try to make the effort to go over all the illustrator comments, because almost every single page here has them. And I think it's going to be extremely interesting to see the thought process of making such characters that eventually just go on a card in a card game. But there's so much story behind it. So as we're coming into the end of the book, there is, of course, making and finalizing the actual artwork that you can see here, building the composition, and eventually closing down on that square, small format that we all know and love from the cards themselves. I really appreciate you guys hanging out with me and enjoying this together with me. Leave a comment below, what do you think about this book? And again, if you want to pick this up, I will leave a link in the description below of where I got it, and hopefully it's going to be available to you as well. And yeah, this has been a real treat. I really hope we get a little bit more like this. We already got a taste of an anime, so that's also something. And yeah, have a good one, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Peace.